We are two down. No,
Hey guys,
Hi guys.
I can see Prachi, I can see Princey, I can see Ma. Hi Ma. 6 बज गए.
Start.
So we're excited to be here. Actually, welcome to our studio. Hi Kushal. I'm having to peer like this to see the questions because it's, the font is really tiny. I hope you guys can hear me. If at any point you're not able to hear us, please let us know. All right? Hello, Imran. Well, good to see you guys. Actually,
Start.
okay, 6 बज गए. शुरू करें.
Yep.
Dukka. Okay. So hi guys. Welcome to the Metronome studio. I am Sawan.
And I'm CB.
Yeah, we're excited to be doing this. So very brief introduction for those of you who don't know us. I'm a composer, singer, songwriter, music producer, vocalist, and now vlogger. And CB is a filmmaker. He's a national award-winning animation director. He is, I think, the most phenomenal tech whiz I know, who also happens to have studied more music than I have. And currently,
I'm the academic director of a media training institute in Mumbai called FX School, where we teach kids how to learn filmmaking, visual effects, animation, graphic design, and photography, and all that stuff. So that's all the cool stuff. Okay. And
so that's a very brief
that's us,
introduction to who we are. So let's quickly go through आज का agenda. आज हम क्या करेंगे इस live session में. So what we'll do is we'll start with a brief background of what we used to do before the metronome, what we do outside of the metronome, and then we will talk about the metronome, how we started it, why we started it, what makes it special, and then we'll go through the methodology of how we go about creating a very signature, very unique, one-of-a-kind song blogs. All right. So, coming to backgrounds, I studied architecture in Delhi in School of Planning and Architecture. And even while I was a student of architecture, I think मेरा ध्यान कहीं और होता था. I used to be, busy playing with bands. So I was playing with my rock band. I was playing keyboards with my rock band, which was called college rock band, which was called The Archetypes. And I had just joined a new fusion group in town, which had just formed, which is called Indian Ocean. So yeah, I was playing with Indian Ocean when they just started and the brand new lineup, and I think of that lineup only Rahul is still there playing with them. So so I was a musician in a band for the longest time. Then I graduated from SPA and then I started working as an architect, which is around the time when CB, I should mention that CB I've known since I was a teenager. He used to be this super geek in our colony who used to, in the 1980s, work on a strange thing called a computer. So yeah, we are very old people. How old we are. So he is also one of the pioneers of the digital revolution in the country in terms of both audio and video. So he, we used to sort of keep in touch, and he's the guy who introduced me to this wonderful world of MIDI and digital audio. When I met him at around this point of time, I found him, anytime you went to his house, it used to be littered with speakers and amplifiers and wires and cables and motherboards and machinery, all bikhra hua with wires and cables lying all over the place. And he used to be working on this sequencing software, he called it. It like a black and white thing called Voitra. Now, Voitra, by the way, is, I think, the extinct great grandfather of the modern day DAW softwares like Logic and Cubase and all, sabka pardada hota tha. So he was working on this black and white DOS based software scoring in a Beethoven symphony or something. You want to talk about
Yeah,
this?
actually, I started off wanting to be a musician, and I studied music at the Delhi School of Music, and I passed a lot of exams, with distinction and all. But the one thing I wasn't was a very good musician, and I wanted to be a conductor, and I realized, okay, that's not going to happen. So I said, why don't we use all this? At that time, the big thing was MIDI technology, which Sawan was talking about. This is 80s and 90s. So at that time, I said, why don't I actually start putting all these symphonies into a computer and get the computer to play them, because that could happen. And so uh, there were these two big revolutions that happened. The first for musicians, the first was MIDI, which started in the 80s. And what MIDI is, the musical instruments digital interface. So with MIDI, the thing was, musicians were told there are three things you can do. I mean,
Hi,
with
all of
any,
you.
I know, with any technology, what you can do is you can, do one of three things, and they're what you do in the sea when you're thrown into the sea. You can swim, sink, or float. Okay. So anybody who adopts new technology and, kind of masters it, you are a swimmer. And if you don't really get it, but you can still use it, you're floating with the new technology. And this is true for any technological change. Even today, people talk about artificial intelligence. It's the same thing. Or worst, you can say, I don't know anything about this. I don't want to know about this. And I'm going to not think about this technology at all. And then what happens is you sink, and sooner or later you become irrelevant, because you have to start adopting new technologies. And these two new technologies is what Sawan adopted: the MIDI and digital audio. Both of them happened in the 80s and 90s. So in the 90s, we started working on the first digital audio workstations,
For
and that's when,
me,
you became,
it was an uh, absolutely amazing thing, because
it's
for the first time in my life, I realized that a single solo musician had the ability to be a complete symphony. I didn't need anybody else. I didn't need any other musicians. I didn't need recordists. I didn't need mixers. I didn't need a whole barat, basically, to produce my own song, and that I could do it all myself. So that was a crazy thing for me to actually discover. Even as an architect, I mean, even being an architect, it was a mind-boggling thing for me that any creative person can create an entire thing. You can make an entire creation from its inception to its finished stage just by yourself, without
and sitting in
involving,
your home.
yeah,
Yes.
and without involving a single other person. So for me, this was like, wow, yaar, I don't need a band, I don't need anybody, किसी को कुछ पूछने की जरूरत नहीं है, खुद
She was
बैठ के-
super thrilled. Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is it, because I'm like a pedaishi self-quarantined, socially distanced person. The lesser human beings I have to interact with, the happier I am. So I was thrilled. So I started working, first on Voyager, because that's what CB introduced me to, and then on Cakewalk, and then on Sonar, and then eventually I played around a little bit with FLS, and then Ableton Live, and then I eventually moved to Logic, which is what I use now. Beach Me, I think I also worked for a while on Acid Pro.
Acid Pro.
Yeah,
yes.
so I've worked on a lot of softwares, and I really can't say that this software is better than that software. And in the end, it's a question of where you're most comfortable working. So yeah, using this technology, I became this solo one-person music producer, composer, musician thing. And well, I started doing various commercial projects for television, film, documentaries, theater, etc. Let me actually play you some of my stuff, which you might be familiar with. Okay. I think you all know this one.
Good night and take very good care of yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
So I guess all of you are familiar with that. That was one of the projects that I did, and then after that, there were other kinds of projects other than TV. One of the associations I really cherish is the series of albums that I did with Ustad Amjad Ali Khan Saab and Aman and Ayan. Let me play you one of the clips from amongst the many that we've done together. It's the best free software for Windows. So there was this one, the lovely version of Vande Mataram where I did the music production, and then there was this very interesting project where I sang and Aman and Ayan also sang, and they played. And let me also play you a little clip from that one.
Feel you in my dream, and I feel you in my brain. Da 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 da
So, there was a whole series of projects that I did with Aman, Ayan, and a lot of my exposure to Indian classical music happened through these projects. Then I think someone is asking.
I'll ask. You
Yeah,
want to
well-
answer a few of the questions? See.
Actually, let's answer some
Yeah.
of your questions.
So we got some of the questions here. Kuvam Sethi wants to know what's the best free software for Windows.
Free.
And yeah. And I'm
GarageBand
actually,
is
I think,
for-
and which is the best software. So these are certain things that people are asking. I think,
Should I offer
yeah,
my
sure.
opinion on this?
Yeah, I think.
Guys, there's no such thing as best software or worst software. It's a question of, it's like saying which is the best language for writing a story. Should I say Hindi? Should I say English? Should I say Bangla? It's a question of which software are you most comfortable with. You should probably check out a few softwares and see kiska interface aapko suit kar raha hai. For instance, I will definitely say that Ableton Live is possibly one of the most user-friendly.
Yeah, and all softwares give you
Interfaces.
some kind of a free version. Even pro softwares like Pro Tools has a free version, so you can use these free
Okay.
versions to actually
Check out
any
the
software, and
interface.
whichever interface you like. I think just stick with that.
And I will say that a good musician on even a free thing like GarageBand will make better music than a not
Yeah.
so good musician on whatever is the world's best software. Actually, there's no such thing. So there are a number of softwares: Logic, Cubase,
I think
FLS.
yeah,
I don't know.
and
Reason exists these days. I don't know.
yeah, Reason is also there. No,
It's
but he
also
wants
there.
to know free software. See, the thing
Free
is,
the bit of a
Yeah,
problem,
so the thing is-
GarageBand is free if you're a Mac user, but
yeah, it just comes with the Mac. But
yeah.
see, I think don't worry about you can if you want to use a free software, just use the free software. It's just that they're not generally industry standard, but
And any software is good or bad depending
Yeah.
on the user. So
user
wo
who's
aap pe
using
depend
it, you
karta
can
hai,
actually create music with
Where-
anything.
how you use the software is what's more important.
Somebody says, I want to make music. That's Aman Abhishek. He says, I want to make music on FL Studio, but I don't know the production technique.
What do you mean by production technique?
Yeah, I think just check up on YouTube. You'll find enough stuff on how to help you.
I think,
We could be spending few hours talking to you
Or
how
few
to do all
years,
the
few
years
years
on how
talking
to do
about
on what's production technique. These are I think not
I would say that start with a very basic
simple stuff. Yeah.
principle of what am I doing on the software and is it sounding good to me? If it's sounding good to me, then you're already on your way to making music. So let your heart and your ears guide you, through the process. And if you're not a musician and you don't have an ear for music, then you're in a bit of trouble, I would say. है ना?
And AB wants to know if you can set up a home studio. I mean, that's what we've been doing
we've
all
been
our
doing it
lives.
for like 20 years. So
More than that, 25 years.
and we are in the age where
Yeah.
you know Billie Eilish and her
Yeah.
brother Phineas are winning Grammys from their bedroom studio productions.
Absolutely, all bedroom. They're all done in the
Everything is moving
bedrooms.
towards the bedroom.
Yeah, it's absolutely, you know, just you can put a home
Yes,
studio
you
anywhere and it's
can.
as good as
Yeah, I mean,
anything, you know.
I would say that you get, I mean, what you heard, KBC, etc., was all done out of a home studio. I mean, I had the option of getting it mixed elsewhere, but I said, no, we'll come to that a little later, you know, the mixing process and all of that, and the necessity or not of going to an outside studio. But absolutely, you can have a home studio, and you should
do more stuff and maybe just send out the stuff for mastering. You know, you want to continue?
Somebody wants to come to our studio.
We are in Mumbai.
I don't know where you guys are.
Okay.
So where were we? All right. Okay. Then
Let's.
I'll play them another. I'll play you my first solo album because it was a really interesting and quirky project, which where my sister, who's a radio jockey in London, was the voice of India's very first 3D animated item girl, which CV, you know.
We had a team of people. We animated that. Let's. Okay.
So I must show you
Let me
this one.
just.
This was the first album that I did as a solo artist for Saregama.
Amanna, Lady Chatterjee.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Lady Chatterjee.
আমি সারারা শুধু চ্যাট করি আমার না লেডি চ্যাটার্জি আমি সারারা শুধু চ্যাট করি
So that was a project where CV created, I think, the country's first animated item girl.
Yeah, actually, this when somebody was talking about home studio, you know, when we started this animation, we had a huge studio, and then you know it closed down, and then we actually even did the animation in a home studio. So it's actually everything can be done.
Everything is
home
possible.
studios are in.
So okay, so there were projects like that. Then I did a couple of Bollywood films. One was called Pani, etc. One was called Mumbai, Delhi, Mumbai.
I know.
So ये सब काम, you know, हो रहा था. I was working on commercial projects like this for the longest time. And this was around the time when CV introduced the idea of the metronome to me, because you know we had also moved to an era where it was possible to get your own music out there to an audience. Like, I'm speaking to you guys. I don't have to go through a gatekeeper to ask ki sir ji inke saath baat karna hai, can we go through, and they say no, you're good enough or not good enough, which used to be the case earlier. There were all these gatekeepers. There were record labels and, you know, A&R departments and all kinds of gatekeepers who would decide whether your music was good enough to reach an audience or not. So we had, in the meanwhile, during these 20 years of our work in the industry, come to a stage where there was social media and YouTube, and it was actually possible for us to just create our own music and put it out there for an audience and see whether someone liked it or not. See for ourselves and not rely on somebody else saying ki aapka music ji bika ya nahi bika, all of that. So also, you know, around this time, CB started asking me ki it's all very well that you've been doing all these commercial projects and Bollywood and this and that, but what happened to all the songs that you had started off wanting to make as a musician? You know, when you're a musician, you know, and when you dream about becoming a professional musician, I would say almost nobody starts off with a dream ki one day I will make a loopable bed underscore to go under an actor's voice while he sells some commercial merchandise, or, you know, sabun, chaddi baniyan, something like that. Ye kisi ka dream nahi hota. Everybody dreams of creating their songs, you know, their own songs. So CV was like, मैं देख रहा हूँ इतने सालों से making songs for commercial projects and clients. When are you going to make your own songs? So don't you think it's time? And so that was the idea behind the metronome, that I create a sort of personal song diary where I create my own songs.
पहले क्या होता था कि तुम ये कहोगे कि चलो मेरे को गाने भी बनाने हैं, बट गाने सुनेगा कौन, how do you get it out to people? See, this was the real problem.
Now we don't have that excuse.
And in the last 6-7 years, that thing has completely faded
I mean,
away.
I still get mails from people saying, "Ki, madam, please
Yeah.
give us a chance and give us a platform. We can sing." Why do you need me to give you a platform? The platform exists.
Nobody
बनाइए
needs.
अपना गाना और डालिए YouTube
yes.
पे, डालिए Facebook पे. अच्छा होगा
The
तो लोग
thing
सुनेंगे.
is, yes, just
You know, that
bilkul.
is the beauty of the age that we're living in. That you don't need any madam or sir to give you a break. You make your thing and you publish it and you put it out there, and you never know who could hear it and get back to you.
So that's how the idea of the metronome came. So we said, okay, kya karenge ki,
And the other
you
thing we realized is that making a song is no longer enough, because people are not consuming music as pure audio anymore. अब लोग जो है म्यूजिक देखते ज्यादा हैं और सुनते कम हैं. So it is very, very important to actually create a video.
कि YouTube पे तुम कुछ कर रहे हो, like you're doing something on YouTube. It's the thing is, गाना तो बना लिया, साथ में अपना video भी बना लो. Now, normally that was a very expensive job. You went to a recording company which actually made the videos and spent money on it. But with new digital cameras and everything, everybody can make an HD or 4K video with stuff that you can have and do, and that's the process we started. So
that in our song blog, we're going to make our
own
songs,
videos, yes,
and we'll make our own videos and we'll put it out there and we'll see what happens there.
And these are zero budget videos. We don't want to spend money on them.
कोई नहीं देखेगा, नहीं
देखेगा तो नहीं
सुनेगा,
देखेगा. Yes.
So that's where we started from. I should actually play you the first
trailer,
channel trailer, which explains where we started off from. Wait, sorry. I'm forgetting to.
This is where I come to sing about any little random thing that I love, that I hate, that makes me hyperventilate to the ticking of the metronome. Won't you make yourself home? Just groove with the vibe. Don't forget to subscribe. Invite everyone at home. Welcome to the metronome. Welcome to the metronome.
So that is what the Metronome is all about. Basically, that I would make songs about anything and everything. I would just steer clear of making songs about love and heartbreak and maybe existential angst, because those are the subjects that every songwriter and every singer is already talking about. So we said, I'm going to make songs about things which are relevant to me, which are happening around me, and which I genuinely feel and I'm able to emote about. Yeah. So for my first song, I actually picked a very interesting topic, which was music production. And I decided that I would talk about pitch correction and auto-tuning. And I said कि एक story होगा, उसमें एक गधा होगा, और वो गधे का dream होगा कि मुझे singer बनना है, and गधा मुझे मिलेगा, and I will take the गधा to the studio and make the गधा sing in tune using my auto-tune software. Yeah, so the song is called Auto-Tune My Ass Off. Let me... where is... And this was the...
I met an ass who said he had a dream of being a singer. He asked me, did it seem feeling likely to be a superstar? I said, let's get into my studio, it's not far. He said, here's a song, repeatedly but still. He said, the notes sound wrong. I said, just chill.
So, that was my donkey who wants to be a singer. So let me actually take you inside my Logic session and show you how I ended up using a donkey for the song. All right. So this is the session. I will play the segment that was relevant. This is a segment you're hearing in the song. Now, what you're not realizing is that that is a donkey singing. Let me play what I started with. Okay, I started with this. So, ये मेरा starting point था. Then, my next step was to get this into the phrase, you know, to sort of chop up my sample, this long sample, into the musical phrase, which was. And the next step was to actually pitch correct the donkey voice. Let me play you just the donkey voice after pitch correction. Auto tune करने के बाद ये गधे की आवाज है, आप सुनिए. So what happens? Donkey becomes a superstar. So that was my first song where I pitch correct a donkey. And it was quite a production challenge, I can tell you, because it's one of the most difficult voices, or whatever you want to call it, sounds to pitch correct and use auto-tune on, as you can imagine. Easy process nahi tha, काफी difficult tha. And of course, I would recommend that every singer should learn at least this much action, because someday if you're singing and even if you're sounding like a donkey, you can, make
pitch correct yourself.
You can make yourself sound better. So yeah. And of course, shooting this video was a whole different nightmare, because ek to hame gadha dhoondna pada. Then it's very, very, it was nearly impossible to get a performance out of the donkey. I mean,
yeah, feed him a carrot, uske baad wo kuch karega. जब तक गाजर है तब तक perform करेगा. पहले तो भाग गया वो, है ना?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was a crazy shoot, and the donkey landed up with one manager and 2 assistants.
Yes.
So the donkey came with this retinue, और हम पहुंचे shoot के लिए. They were just the 2 of us.
And they asked us, where is your crew?
And हमें देखा और बोला कि आपके shooting वाले कहाँ हैं?
आप दोनों
कहा कि भैया बस इतने ही लोग हैं हम.
That's it.
ये भाई साहब कैमरा चलाएंगे, शूट करेंगे, मैं गधे के साथ नाचूंगी, आप घड़ा संभाल लीजिए. So that was the shoot.
Bollywood में वो बहुत ही मतलब
हमारी
समझ ही नहीं आया,
हमारी
ना
नाक
कट गई. हाँ, उन्होंने सोचा बड़े प्रोड्यूसर हैं,
गधे के पास 3 लोग हैं, ये लोग सिर्फ 2 लोग आ गए वीडियो बनाने, पता नहीं कैसे लोग हैं. So yeah, well, the shoot was quite bizarre, because the donkey went through about one whole sack full of carrots, and at least the donkey managed to wear those glasses and the headphones. And
we bribed the donkey with carrots. That's how he sang. Payment समझ लो, है ना? Donkey का payment वो था, उसको पैसे तो नहीं मिले उसको. ठीक है.
But after this video,
that's when I said, boss, I said I'll help you with this blog, but it's like, too much.
मैं तेरे पीछे भाग के गधे नहीं शूट कर सकता.
बहुत हो गया यार ये.
This is like crazy. And he said that you better learn to shoot yourself.
Yeah, so I got her this camera, which is a Canon G7X, which had a flip screen. So I said, okay, now you can see yourself. Please shoot yourself and create a video by just, shooting yourself.
So we're moving on to the next level of self-dependence, where गाने भी I'm making, and
मैंने बोला वीडियो भी तो खुद ही शूट कर, मेरे से नहीं होगा.
मुझे ही खुद बनाना पड़ेगा. Of course. So I made my next video, the second video, which I said that, okay, I will just sit in my studio and put the camera here, and I will shoot myself.
Yeah.
And that is all that will be in the whole song. and maybe the song won't do too well. पता नहीं यार, शायद थोड़े लोगों को पसंद आएगा, थोड़े लोगों को पसंद नहीं आएगा, but करके देखते हैं. Since he's not going to shoot me, मुझे खुद ही shoot करना
Yeah,
पड़ेगा.
ऐसे तो नहीं मैंने बोला था.
So okay, whatever. So let me show you that second song, which again you might be familiar with.
Is your skin feeling dry? Does your complexion make you cry? Then you must definitely try. Purulene is good for my skin. Purulene is the cream for my teeth and kin. I put on my...
So guys, that was my second video. Now this video went quite crazy in many ways, you know. I had thought that the donkey video was going to do very well because donkey hai, gada hai.
I thought it was a hit song.
Auto tune ke bare mein baat kar rahe hain, and I thought that this song would do okay, you know. थोड़े से लोग गालियां मारेंगे कि पता नहीं कैसी अजीब सी औरत आ गई स्क्रीन पे एंड अजीब से एक्सेंट में गाना गा रही है एंड व्हाटएवर. But to my amazement, this song just went haywire, you know. I mean, I was getting calls from film directors and all. क्या character बनाया है, वाह वाह, this is like awesome, क्या humor and all. And I was like, good lord, I mean, इसमें तो कुछ किया ही नहीं हमने, सामने कैमरा डाल दिया और you know we just shot. And just a stupid song. It's like मजाक में बनाया था. So this song became an eye opener for us.
And a major learning.
You know, the good thing about being on YouTube is that you're getting your audience feedback and reaction bilkul साथ, you know. And
without a filter, you know, it's not being
without
filtered.
someone telling you कि आपका गाना जी चला या नहीं चला या whatever. Everything is happening. There's no filter between me and the audience. So I was amazed at the reaction to this song. I had not anticipated it. I had not expected it. So the big learning from this song was that the success of your song and video does not depend on your video production budget.
Yes, the production value is not the most
important
thing.
इससे पहले हम सुनते आए थे कि अगर आप इतने लाख रुपए खर्च नहीं करोगे अपने वीडियो पे तो your video is not going to work. Nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to like it. That is a myth. You don't need a lot of money. All I did was buy some tubes of Borolene and I sat here and I just, you know, shot myself. So that is a myth. You don't have to have a huge, expensive, you know, massively produced video to make a mark with the audience. And the second thing I realized is that you don't even have to invest in PR and marketing and all of that, you know, you're told. I mean, since I've done quite a few albums and worked in the industry for a long time, my perception was that unless you hire PR and unless you hire a marketing team and, you know, you pay for press, no one's going to cover you. No, you're not going to get any press coverage. That is not true. If you're able... hey guys, sorry, the writing is so small, I'm not able to read all the questions. But, yeah, this was our takeaway from the whole thing that, you know, sometimes if you come across a concept which is unique,
it travels on its own. It creates its own buzz, and you know that's what we call virality.
That can supersede huge budgets and supersede PR and marketing teams. So I mean, the idea is the most, you know, that concept and the idea is the most important thing, really. So that was learning from this video.
And then people, you know, started calling in and said, "What about Bengali auntie? We need to see more of her."
Yeah, that became a bit of a problem in my life because, you know, I had just made the second video and it was like some stupid thing. If I can choose myself. And suddenly I was getting calls and messages saying that, wow, kya character banaya hai? I had not made any character as such. And what is she going to do next? And what are you going to do with her next? And I was like, I don't know. Ab sochna padega because my audience is all asking for me to bring back this lady, you know, the lady who sang Borolene. So I had to start thinking of other things she could do. So then she sang the song with a monkey cap about winter, and eventually हमने कहा क्या कर सकती है उसको kitchen में डालो, let her cook fish because that's what Bengalis do, you know, mache jhol. While I was making mache jhol, it never struck me that recipe songs as a genre does not possibly exist and that I was doing something very unique. It never struck me then. But after I uploaded Machirjol, oh man, if I thought Borolin was big, I cannot even describe to you. I mean,
How big
what
Machirjol
was.
It just went through
You guys
the
have
roof.
probably, I won't play the video, but you guys have probably, seen it and heard it because the press was suddenly chasing me and it was all over. I mean, I had BBC here interviewing me. I was on CNN. I mean, I was on all kinds of, media and social media platforms, and Machirjol became huge. It is the biggest viral song and video on my platform. So that again gave birth to something unique at the Metronome, which is this category called recipe songs. It's not like I intended to create recipe songs, but suddenly I realized that nobody else probably in the world was creating songs out of recipes. And suddenly there was this demand, can you make a song about this? Can you make a song about that? Can you make a song about that? And even nicer than that was I had little kids and all kinds of people sending me their cover versions of some of these songs. That, I learned to cook this because of that. I learned to cook this. So I was like, okay, so my audience wants more. So then I, started creating more of these recipe songs. And yeah, it became a thing. I mean, it's one of the, I think Metronome is probably the only, it hosts the only collection of recipe songs in the world. I don't think there is such a collection of recipe songs anywhere else in the world. So that is something that is unique about a song blog. So I think now let's take them through
to editing.
process of
how we do the
how do we go about creating our blogs. Yeah. So I guess
you want to start at the beginning. The old days, what would
Yeah.
happen is that you are expected to create a song and you take it to a record label who will hire a video producer, and the video was visualized to your song. Now, when we started doing the vlog, one of the things Sawan realized is you need to do all these processes parallelly. Okay, you want to explain how your video process shifted from this, Bums?
somebody's asking, how is Audacity? Audacity is a sound thing, no? Is it?
It's
software?
No, it's not a sequencing software.
not
It's a sound
not
editing software.
It's like SoundForge. It
So
works on a WAV file. It works on single.
there's music production software and there's sound editing software.
Someone
The
wants
two
to know
are-
what are the must-have equipment for music producers. I would say today some kind of computer.
Yeah, you need a
And some
computer,
kind
a
of
laptop, or a desktop. Plus, you need, I think,
An interface.
you need at least one music production software, which is a digital audio workstation of some
A
sort,
keyboard of some kind.
and maybe a keyboard. And if you're just using loops, you don't even need a keyboard.
I would
yeah,
note,
if you just,
that's not a
but-
great way to work, but yeah.
Yeah, somebody
having-
had asked, do we need any instruments in a studio somewhere? I think so. This links to that also.
You can work with virtual instruments.
Yeah, you
I
can
mean,
work
a
with
real
virtual-
instrument is always an additional bonus, but it is entirely possible to
Yeah.
work without instruments, which a lot of people are doing these
Actually,
days.
usually a keyboard is enough.
One keyboard is enough.
Yeah,
Through the
one-
keyboard, you can
you can
normally
control everything.
access
Yeah.
a virtual bank of sounds and synths, which is normally very huge these days. You
Yeah.
can get a whole
Infinite. You can
yeah. You
just
can get
like you can
through
load-
that keyboard. You can access many different banks, which also you can separately buy. So you need to have some sort of a musical instrument. You need to have a mic, I guess, if you want to get into vocal production.
Yes, absolutely.
And you need some sort of reliable monitoring. It could be headphones, could be speakers. You need some way to sort of assess.
Actually, the more speakers you have, the better off you are, because you can test your mixes on everything. So, and not necessarily big, expensive speakers.
Someone is asking, I was part of, sorry guys, I'm replying to questions late. I was part of Indian Ocean. Why did you leave? I left because I was still studying in college. I had to complete my final year thesis. And, when they went to do their first album, I was asked to go to Kolkata, to Dum Dum and record with them. But I had to make a choice between whether to graduate, whether to actually finish my final year thesis and pass out, or go and make the album. And, kind of family I come from, academics will always take precedence and, top priority. So I had to finish my studies. So yeah, that was kind of sad, but that's how things went. I had to prioritize my studies and complete my college. Yeah. Okay, I'm a singer. Can I give auditions for singing project? I'm sure you can. But then why don't you just sing and put out your
Yeah.
music?
Put out your video and somebody will find you.
Dinkar Suri is asking what inspires you guys to give your best in a music production. I don't know. It's a different inspiration every day. Some day something, some day something else. And our audience is always the best inspiration. You know, the feedback that we get from listeners, that is always the most inspiring thing, I would say. Other than the audience, it could be anything. I mean, I've created songs about hand washing for COVID, about the lockdown situation, about demonetization, about a film that I liked called Dunkirk, about food that I make. So inspirations are all around us. You know, I would say daily life, anything and everything in daily life inspires me to, you know, create songs. But yes, always I keep my audience in mind, because the audience is really what makes us. Artists want to collaborate with me. Okay, guys, you know where to find me. You know where my social media pages and my YouTube channel is. So write to me, I guess. I'm a new flute learner. How can I approach what or whom? I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. What's my review for Logic 10.5? You know, Logic is a great software. I love Logic, and the new release has some great features. And I guess at the end of the day, you know, there's only so much.
Yeah, I think the key thing is to concentrate on your music and not just
Yeah.
on the version of software.
The software is just a tool. The software is
tool,
just a
it's
language. The software is not the end. What you do with the software is more important. The important thing is actually in here, you know. So, okay, I think have we answered all questions? What kind of vocal exercises do you do every day? Oh my God, I am so guilty. There are many that I should be doing, but I'm not doing these days. I mean, these days especially, because jhadu, pocha, bartan and all of that has to be also, you know.
Yeah, there's.
And I guess there are a whole bunch of exercises, from basic sargam to holding one note steadily for as long as you can, to breathing techniques, you know, to techniques for strengthening your diaphragmatic exhalation techniques. So there are many different exercises that vocalists can do. I'm sure you can find a lot of them on YouTube. I am guilty of not doing enough vocal exercises by far. You know, I wish. I'm glad you reminded me. Maybe now I'll concentrate on doing that in the future. What are the must-have? Okay, so I think we've kind of
gone through this. Maybe you can continue.
So where were we? I keep losing track.
Post-production.
Right, the process of finding a subject. So as I told you, my inspirations come from anywhere. That is how we choose a subject for the metronome. I just try to steer clear of subjects which every other songwriter is writing about anyway. Love, heartbreak, existential Einstein, mood kharab hai, main mar gayi. Kind of try to, you know, steer clear of that stuff. Next comes the writing part. Now, I know that the writing is a very important part of my songwriting is very, very crucial to the whole process. But, you know, I come from a family where everyone is a writer. My mother is a much published children's writer. My sister writes. My nephew, when he was 10-year-old, wrote probably songs as good as I do. So I don't end up thinking a lot about my writing. It just happens, you know, and writing flows in our blood. So yeah, there's the writing. Then there's the composition. I think I should talk about the composition here, because the way I approach composition is a little different from many others. You know, when I first actually came to Mumbai to try and peddle my first album, I was asked the strange question that, "Aap kya karenge is album pe? Are you the singer? Are you the composer? Are you the music producer? What are you?" And I was like, I've done all of that.
Yeah.
So why do I need to be one of these things? Why can I not be all of them?
And they didn't believe that.
So the thing is, since I do all of the above, for me, I really don't know where composition ends, where arrangement starts, where arrangement ends, and production starts, where production ends, and sound engineering starts. For me, it is one consolidated whole process, because for me, the reverb that I choose, or the kind of delays that I choose, are a part of my composition, because I mean, if I'm using a certain kind of tempo controlled, BPM driven delay of a certain kind, I may choose to not use certain instruments because the delay is doing the job of the instrument, right? And the kind of reverb that I use will often also determine many other compositional elements or procedures that I follow. So for me, it's very difficult to actually say that कि ये काम composer का है जी और ये काम engineer करेगा. I don't work like that. For me, the entire thing is one flowing, continuous, process. So, which also, I think someone had asked me that how would you choose a mixing studio or a recording engineer? How do you decide whom to work with? So there, I've had some really scary experiences there, because very often in the industry you get told that falana studio is like they got great gear, big sound, expensive stuff, and if you agar aap wahan se mix kara loge to aapka gana bahut acha ho jayega. So I've had this experience of taking all my unmixed tracks to a studio, tracking all of them, and saying that okay, fine, aap kijiye mix, and waiting to see what happens. And at the end of the mixing process, I was a bit stunned because every single track on the song was suddenly loud and big and bright in a uniform, uniform, characterless, bland way. Everything was loud, everything was bright, everything was fantastic, but all the careful, interplays and the little chemistries that I had constructed between different instruments and between different parts had just vanished. And sometimes, what makes your song special and what gives it character is the little imperfections, that you sneak in, or all the little interplays between things, all the little subtle things that you sometimes work for hours to acquire. And if you're working with an engineer who doesn't get that, whose innate aesthetic or sensibility, audio sensibility is different from yours, जिसको वो सब कुछ सुनाई ही नहीं देता है, then it doesn't really matter how big or expensive, or well equipped the studio is, your song is dead. My song was sounding like big and bright, and like, it had come from the assembly line, like a regular industry, bland, characterless, song from the Bollywood or wherever assembly line. And that is not how I wanted it to sound at all. And I realized that, the fault was not the mixing engineer. It was my fault. I should have actually checked to see whether, that person's aesthetic is on the same wavelength as mine or not. So that is, I think,
That's the key aspect, isn't it?
the most important thing, that the person that you're working with is on the same musical wavelength as you and shares your aesthetic, shares your core sensibility of what constitutes good music or bad music, and you start from there basically. So now I don't go to any mixing studio to get my songs mixed. I mix myself, and I often, when the project demands, I get my mix mastered from a good mastering engineer, because what happens in mastering is that they correct a lot of little problems which arise from my monitoring constraints, from my room size, all the little problems that happen at the lower end of the frequency spectrum. Bass में जो problem होता है या बहुत sibilance में जो problem होता है, the mastering person is able to fix that, and that is about all I require, from an external
person. Yeah, from a different engineer. So talk something about.
So then after the mix is done, I should actually say that my composition doesn't just end there. Now that I'm creating videos, I don't just think lyric and melody. I also think about the storyboard and the footage that is going to be applied to the music, because we are shooting, we are in charge of the video. There's no third person who's going to come in with footage and fill up the visual gap. So I have 3 tracks running in my composition procedure. I'm thinking lyrics, I'm thinking melody, and I'm also thinking visual storyboard. कि यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है exactly? मतलब I will not go into a long drawn instrumental passage if there is no footage that I can use for to support that musical passage. So yeah, it becomes. I think you get a better overall product, when you are able to think.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, of course, is one of the things we'd even talked about earlier is the whole thing of mixing and mastering. So one of the things we have all around the house and studio is different types of speakers. And nowadays, most people are actually, seeing things on a phone, listening to the things on a phone. So there's that. There are iPads, there are laptops. So one of the things we do is there are, you can see here, if you ever flip this, you will see all the different types of speakers in this room. So in the studio itself, there are 3 or 4 different types of things Sawan listens to her mix on. There's the big Genelecs, there's, Yamahas, there's Bose, there is. So once you actually...
I always check my mix
on many
phone,
different
on a phone.
Speakers plus the phone.
Yeah.
Which is the most important nowadays.
Get people sending me their music and requesting me to please listen to our music on good speakers or good headphones. That is ridiculous,
Yeah.
I mean, when they do that, they made sure that I'm going to hear it on the worst possible speaker. Because, if you're not even confident of your sound, and if you're having to dictate to the listener that you can only listen to my music on falana, that kind of speaker, then you failed as a music, as a music
producer. Yes, absolutely.
Because
it needs to sound good on everything.
It's going to be the audience's choice eventually, whether they hear it on a phone, whether they hear it on a speaker, whether they hear it on a big, expensive, music system at home, or on a tiny little earpod. It needs to sound good on all those speakers. So I spend a lot of time actually testing my music out on a phone, on every single kind of speaker that I'm able to access. So that's I think the end of the music production process. Then we move on to the shoot. And of course, when I started, I didn't know anything about editing. CB, on the other hand, was a legend of an editor in the industry. People used to look up to him for his edits and all. But then again, CB is the kind of guy who will never say, "Oh, you poor thing, let me edit your video for you. You're a creative person. Why don't you just sing and I'll do the edit?" No, he doesn't do that. What he'll do is he'll give you a software and say, "ये ले software, computer तेरे सामने है, figure out your shit, और मुझे तंग मत कर." He's literally like that.
Actually, the truth is musicians make some of the best editors, and if you're like what Sawan is, she's an architect plus, a musician. So that's 2 really good things for an editor, because what happens is if you have a good visual sense, which architects have, I mean, that's the only way you're an architect, and you're a musician, then you have a good rhythm sense. And once you have these 2 things, you're actually bound to be a good natural video editor. All you have to learn is how to operate software. And a lot of people actually get very concerned about software. That's the easiest part of the whole thing, learning a software. You can learn any software. You can transition from any music software to something else. You can move from one video software to another. That's not the problem. If your fundamentals are correct, you can learn anything. And if you have the right, instinct and talent for it, which she had. So she's an awesome editor, actually.
I had to learn because, it's just better to control the entire process yourself. I'm a control freak. Questions. Is Sonodyne good?
Actually, we don't use any Sonodyne, but they're good. But I don't know if they're good for, as mastering or monitoring speakers. They're very good to have at home.
Also, I think good depends on what are you comparing it with.
I'm
sure it's better than something else. And
it's like that.
Good is very subjective. I don't know. We don't
Yeah, we use Yamahas and Genelec, so that's us. But there are another 5-6 brands of speakers. All of them are good.
Yeah, we can't give you an informed opinion
So
on.
the opinion is if you like it, you can listen to it. There's nothing. I mean, they're good speakers, but
They're
are they the
industry
best?
standards.
They're not industry standard. The Genelec is an industry standard. Yamaha is an
Sonodyne
industry.
isn't?
Sonodyne isn't. It's
Are
an
you sure?
Indian brand. They're not an industry
Okay.
standard, but they're good speakers. So I mean, they're not bad speakers.
So they're probably better than something
Yeah, but
else.
does somebody use a Sonodyne in Abbey Road? No. Okay, studios, so they don't
But
use
it's
it, do they?
probably
Yeah.
better than having I don't know.
Yeah, it's better than probably having multimedia speakers. I mean, they're good speakers. I'm not saying they're good speakers.
So it's a
But
question
what
of
happens is
what
if
is good.
you want to set up your own studio, you want to buy the best monitoring speakers that you can afford at that point of time, which you may be sure will be found in 4 or 5 other studios. So I'm not so sure how many recording studios actually use Sonodyne speakers. So the one thing you need to have in your house is good speakers. I think
STEM
good
mastering.
headphones.
Hello Processes is asking which is better, mastering or STEM. Yes, if you're not sure about your mixing, and if your mixing hasn't been done properly, then STEM mastering is better than submitting the entire badly done mix for mastering. Yes, I would say that the mastering engineer would definitely find it more helpful to work with stems.
It's a question of what the mastering engineer wants. So
I would
depending
say
on
that,
who you
yes,
trust, they will tell you whether they need stems
separate
or
your
they need-
kick, your subs,
Yeah.
your bass, your highs,
Yeah.
your synths, your vocals, and at least utne stems separately bana
हाँ.
ke भेजेंगे तो it just gives the mastering engineer more control, better.
Yes, and the
precision
question is, do you
control.
want to give him that control?
Yeah, depends on.
So it
Well,
depends.
if you think you've done a bad
Yeah.
mix, then yes. If you think you've done a good mix, then no, don't give stems.
And definitely,
say.
if you have to give it for Dolby mixing or something, you'll have
Then
to
you
give the
have to
stems.
give
There
the
is no way
stems
you can
because-
avoid not
yeah,
giving the
yeah,
stems.
yeah.
That's only for regular things that you can avoid giving
Fine.
stems. For surround and Dolby, you have to give the stems.
Oops.
What is it?
So we've almost
Almost through. Good. But you want to...
right.
Yeah.
We where was I? I was talking about the recipe songs that we do, and so I have, I guess, been experimenting with a whole wide variety of genres of music while doing my recipe songs, because you can't keep making recipe after recipe after recipe and allow it to get boring by using just one musical style. So let me show you a series of clips where I'm experimenting with very different musical styles, from operatic and orchestral and classical to Bangla folk to electropop to jazz to Carnatic.
all the while making recipe songs.
Yeah, all the while something is being cooked in the kitchen.
Shut the light.
This is operatic.
Heat the oil in pressure cooker till I hear it scream. You are not even Kosha Rat Mosla and red chili powder.
That's Bangla folk.
We want Chalburi. Chalburi. Spicy, tasty, crunchy Chalburi. Chalburi.
That's electropop.
Star with one hand, it will stick if you don't do. With other hand, take photo for Facebook. Star with one hand, till your eyes is done almost. With other hand, you can check your Facebook post. Roost.
Carnatic music.
Roost. All the way from the Kerala coast. Each piece of
That's jazz, one of my favorite genres.
green chili according to taste. And gently taste the fish. Irish. Taste coming home to it, no need.
Back to folk.
Chili.
So that gives an idea of the kind of the way we experiment with musical genres across recipes, which keeps things interesting for us musically and challenging. At the same
and
time.
it's all shot within our home and our studio, and in certain limited places mostly.
So I guess I would conclude this session by saying that, as you can see, it is possible to do all of this: create your music and videos, and put it out there on social media. And as some of you must be aware, I mean, it has been an unbelievable journey, for us. We've got like fans from all over the world who write back to us, like lovely little comments and cover versions of our songs. I've been played on NPR, which is the radio station in USA, and been covered by all kinds of media publications and portals. And the kind of publicity that I have received without engaging a PR agent or without paying for any kind of promotion or marketing has been an eye-opener. So it is possible to do all of this, with just two people.
Yeah, the only thing that happens is all your holidays also become, shooting, working holidays. So we shoot a lot of stuff in our holidays, and you can see a lot of that on our channel.
You have to understand,
all over the world we've been shooting.
You have to actually count your blessings that you're living in these times when all this is possible, when technology makes it possible.
All possible, yes.
I mean, 10 years ago, I would have said, no, there's no chance.
There was nothing. There was no way you could have done this. Yeah, this is all, in the last 5 years, I should say, especially, everything has become much easier.
So now you have the opportunity, you have the wherewithal, just go for it. If you want to do this, if you want to make your own music, if you want to make your videos, grab your basic equipment and just go for it.
And shoot your own videos. That's going to help you, or at least get one friend who can help you with it. And that's that. You want to look at if there are more questions?
Yeah. I hope you guys found that helpful. Thank you, guys. People want to audition. Oh God.
Okay.
I'm possibly not the right person to give an audition to, because I don't do a lot of, I think.
Let's see if there's anything that we kind of missed out.
Did I miss out any questions?
Okay. I think, okay, we are done.
So I think, we finished 1 hour time slot.
How can we use reverb and echo effects which sound good in our vocal?
I could spend a whole
year yes, talking about that.
And I cannot verbally, tell you that, except to say that use your ears, use your judgment, and use your heart. Sorry, this sounds very Marie Kondo, but you have to ask yourself, do I like this? Am I liking what I'm hearing? That really is how simple it is. At the end of the day, that's all I use, my judgment. To decide what reverb is working or what reverb is not working. There are many reverbs. Then you can tweak little parameters of the reverb, the pre-delay, the wetness, the EQ. I mean, you can actually micro shape and
it also depends on
the reverb. So
the kind of song, I guess.
It depends on the kind of song, on the kind of space you're trying to create, on what kind of vocals they are, what kind of mood you're trying to establish, what other instruments are there in the song other than your vocals. So it's a very complex question that you've asked, and the answer to that cannot,
personal,
I guess. I mean, on one hand, I would say that it's not possible to answer through just one vocal line कि आप ये reverb use करो मजा आ जाएगा, ऐसा simple answer तो है नहीं, हर गाने पे डिपेंड करता है.
नहीं, हम वो पहले करते थे ना स्टूडियो में, तो लोग डालते थे जागरण रिवर्ब था, echo. So that somebody would like that, and somebody would say I want it pretty dry, very reverb.
Thank you, Princey. Actually, thank you, Princey, and thank you, Songdew. We thoroughly enjoyed this session because
absolutely.
It's not very often that we get asked tech questions, and we love talking about the behind the scenes process and the work as the mehnat pasina part of the vlogs, because there's a lot of that. So Princey, Prachi, all of you at Songdew,
Thank you very much.
very
Yeah,
much. We
yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed yourself.
Okay.
Thank you all of you who've tuned in for asking some lovely questions. I hope you guys enjoyed the session. And if you have any more questions, find me somewhere, maybe on my
Online,
social
she's
media
there.
or somewhere. And yeah, please feel free to ask me any tech questions. I love, talking tech. So yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
See you. Stay safe, all of you. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Khatam?